I broke up with my fiancé a week before the wedding, and now his family will not leave me alone. I am in desperate need for advice, and I cannot really talk to those in my family or my friends, as they are very angry on my behalf and want me to scorch the earth and burn all the bridges. I met my now ex about 3 years ago. I was 22 and he was 27. We got along really well at first, and we stayed friends for a while. It wasn't until the very end of 2023 that we decided to go on a date. It was more of a joke date because we had a few friends that kept trying to push us together. However, being by myself with him that night really changed how I looked at him. We spent hours talking and laughing at dinner. I felt like we connected on a different level. We spoke about what we each wanted for our futures, and they almost completely aligned. We started going on several dates a week after that. Some just to coffee shops or walks in the park with our dogs, others to nice restaurants or movies, etc. I say all this to show that the relationship was always easy, fun, and happy. We had very few disagreements, and those we did have were not about serious topics. It breaks my heart knowing that he was lying to me the whole time. We got engaged in May. I know it was fast, but it felt right, and planned our wedding for the last week of February. I am Mexican and he is Indian, so we planned a traditional Mexican wedding for the 23rd, and then the rest of the week were going to be the big parties and ceremonies following his family's traditions. 4 days ago, on Valentine's morning, I was approached by my ex's cousin at my home. I was finishing packing when she knocked on my door. We sat on the floor, since all my furniture had been moved, with coffee and started talking. We had been very close since before I started dating my ex, and the engagement just brought us closer. After some small talk, she told me that she had something serious and difficult to discuss with me. She wanted me to listen to a voice recording my now ex and a family gathering of his. I was unable to attend due to work commitments. In this recording, he was bragging about a case he had a few years ago. He sounded drunk and was telling whoever he was with to not say anything to me. As I listened longer, he let details about this case slip, and it became apparent he was talking about a case that I was sued in. In 2020, I rear-ended a truck who slammed on their brakes while we coming up to a red light. I wasn't paying proper attention and hit the truck's back bumper. We were going less than 10 miles an hour when it happened, and the truck had one scratch above the license plate as a result. I called my insurance and reported the accident. Within an hour, I was being told by my insurance that the driver of the truck had retained a lawyer and were claiming there were 5 people in the truck and all had serious injuries. The couple that were actually in truck didn't know that we had a lot of mutual friends who they bragged to. They bragged to those mutual friends that they were going to get all the money that they could because I looked rich, and openly admitted to those friends all the lies they were claiming, which included the amount of people in the car, all the injuries, and that their lawyer insisted on claiming injuries and emotional trauma from the accident. I was also told by these mutual friends that their lawyer had given them my address and phone number, which then led to harassing phone calls, messages, and people parking in front of my driveway and blocking my car in. There was much more, but then this post would longer than it already is. It was terrifying and emotionally exhausting. It did not end until a few of those friends told me that they would volunteer to be witnesses in court if needed. I called my insurance and spoke with the investigator assigned to my case and let him know everything with my friend's permission. Within a week the case was settled and they got a payout. My insurance rate almost doubled. The whole citation from the accident to settlement lasted almost an entire year. It was exhausting, frustrating, and horrible. I now know that their lawyer was my ex-fiancé. The law firm which handled the case was owned by my ex-fiancé, which he relocated and renamed before we met, almost immediately after the case closed. According to the voice recording, he apparently knew who I was not long after we first met. Knowing that he pushed those people to harass me, to lie, and try to get me to pay them on the side broke my heart. I asked his cousin how she got the recording, and she told me she was there, and when she realized the situation he was talking about, she began recording on her phone. At that moment, I felt as though the floor was ripped out from under me. I even thought about forgiving him, until she showed me the messages between my ex-fiancé and her. She confronted him about it the next day, and instead of feeling remorseful, he threatened her and said he would reveal her previous drinking problem to her husband. I gave up on the relationship in that moment. I couldn't believe what I was reading, but I confirmed it was his number, and the time was when he was with me on a lunch date. I recall he had been on his phone a lot throughout the date and was a little more irritable that day. I broke off the engagement the next day. I went to his house with my brother, cousins, dad, and uncles to get all my stuff and move back to my house while I spoke with him. I wanted to know why he did what he did years ago, and why he would let our relationship get this far. I didn't get any meaningful answers. He just kept repeating himself and saying that he loves me. He didn't think it was a big deal, and I should be able to forgive him. I gave him his ring back and told him no, it was over. I called his parents immediately after I left and told them what happened and why. I explained that nothing they could say would allow me to trust their son again. They were quiet on the phone and didn't say much. I went home and cried. My sister and mother handled canceling what they could of the things I paid for. All was quiet until yesterday. His whole family has been calling me, messaging me, emailing me, and showing up at my house to try to convince me to get back with him. I keep being told that I was too hasty in my decision, but I don't believe I was. I spent an entire 24 hours trying to convince myself I can move on and stay with him before I called my dad and asked him to help me move my stuff. However, the onslaught of messages, phone calls, and now visits have been a lot to handle. I don't know what to do at this point. I'm exhausted, overwhelmed, and feel like crying every 5 minutes. Maybe I have made a hasty decision, but I can't see myself trusting him again, and I can't see him as the same man with the good morals I fell in love with. Update. Thank you so much to those who have given advice and kind words. It has been helpful, and I was not expecting this many responses. I can't respond to everyone, so I want to say thank you. Last night when I posted, I was emotional and a little lost on what to do. I woke up this morning and decided to take action. I would like to address a few things I have read in the comments. First one is I didn't make the connection of him being that specific lawyer by name because all communication between my insurance company and his lawyer that I was privy to only showed the lawyer's last name. Such as Mr. Last Name, and my ex-fiancé's last name is one of the most common last names in his culture. I never Googled anything because the accident happened right before COVID shutdowns in our area, and as I was doing my schooling or training as a pediatric nurse, my life was insane at the time. When I met my ex, I recognized the last names were the same, but the law firms were in different cities and had different names, so I never gave it a second thought. Second, we were not together during the events caused by the accident. We didn't know each other. We didn't meet until 2022, about almost 3 months before I turned 23, and the car accident case was closed in very early 2021. Third, from what I understand, he was born in the US but grew up in India and got his law degree there before moving back to the US and went through the process of getting an LLM and then state boards. Then his parents gave him money to set up his law firm. I knew all this before we began dating, and I just assumed he was speaking about his current law firm. And no, I haven't ever looked into it deeper. I just took what he has told everyone in our friend group as the truth. Based on the date of the accident, he was 25 when the accident happened, and the case was closed before he turned 26, and never went to court because, as I was told by my insurance, there was a lack of evidence. I wasn't told the particulars of their injuries in order to not prevent any HIPAA allegations. I was only told of the general nature of the injuries being claimed, back pain and emotional trauma. My insurance paid them a small portion of my liability limit because the accident was my fault, and I believe they just wanted to close the case, but again I was told there was no evidence to back up their claims. I then met my ex a few days after his 27th birthday. If I am remembering a particular conversation correctly, he said he was 24 when he received his license to practice law. Fourth, I have spoken with his cousin. She says her and her husband are fine. She spoke to him before speaking with me because, as she put it, he knew she was an alcoholic, which is why she never drinks, but he never asked or pushed her about the details of her life before he met her. So I guess she told him everything that my ex-fiancé could hold over her head and told him what her cousin threatened. She has sent me the voice recording and screenshots of the text messages. She has assured me she and her family will be fine. She has also informed me that his parents paid for all his schooling as well as covering the rent for his current and previous office space, the cost to change the name of his law firm, and the startup cost for his law firm, which she believes is the reason why they are heavily pushing for us to get back together, so they don't lose out on their, as she puts it, investment in their son. Since yesterday, I have decided to kick my butt into gear and stop feeling sorry for myself. Thank you to those who made it clear to me that the relationship was never what I thought it was. I didn't realize it, but up until yesterday I was thinking of my ex in the same light as I thought of him during our relationship. I now truly realize that man never existed. He was not showing me himself, but a reflection of what I wanted in a partner. I have spoken to my family who have traveled to the town I am currently living in for the wedding, and they agreed that I should move back home. I have also reached out to a few law firms and am waiting to hear back to set up appointments. I want to know what are the legalities in reporting him to the state bar, and I will be pursuing restraining orders on all those I can. I also have spoken with my work and direct supervisor, and they agreed to lessen my hours to part-time since I have found coverage for about half my shifts until my already scheduled PTO starts. I can't with good conscience leave yet as there is a shortage of nurses in my area, so I am giving my work time to find a replacement. Also, this is my first official job as a pediatric nurse with a title, and I don't want to end it badly. I would like to have a good letter of recommendation from them for after I move. I do have some cameras around my house, but my dad went to Costco this morning to buy some more, and my landlord has agreed with letting my dad install them. My sister and mother have also spoken to me about slowing down with how I plan my life and standing up for myself. I admit, I do not like conflict and tend to avoid it as much as possible, even when it infringes on my well-being. I tend to get this unpleasantly hot feeling all over my body and get very nauseous when I have to deal with confrontation. However, thanks to you Redditus and my family, I will deal with my situation head-on as I cannot see another way to resolve this. I no longer believe his family will back off or calm down unless confronted with legal repercussions, and I will just try my best to not cower away from the conflict. I will update after speaking to a lawyer. Again, thank you to those who commented. I truly appreciate it.